Hello everyone, it's Shayna, and it's April 20th at 9:43 a.m. I wanted to make a video about copper, and copper is something that has been labeled as don't overdose on it, and what is recommended by the Center for Disease Control is a very small amount. I will actually have some links in my video description. But there is herbs plus bead works. And this is, this is put together by, this is a YouTube channel for a Canadian herbalist. And he has a lot of remedies regarding the geoengineering that we're experiencing. And I've become a bit addicted to this channel because it provides a lot of remedies and solutions to a lot of the problems that I'm experiencing here. And from what I'm seeing also with my father-in-law as well. So, copper. What I'd like to do is, at this point, share a couple of things. First about Switzerland. Because I'm here in Switzerland, and it's important to make this connection of what Karen Hudis had mentioned is that Switzerland appears to be where the head happens to be coming from, and the tentacles are out, and whether it's through inventions like the internet. Did you know that the internet was developed by a Swiss computer programmer in collaboration with DARPA? So I will have a link for that. It's basically on Wikipedia, which Wikipedia puts out a lot of disinformation, but they very proudly also put it in front of you as information. My partner also says that a lot of inventions come out of Switzerland. He's very proud of that. And then for whatever reason, these inventors have to sell their idea to corporations outside for further development. And it's curious. So there's a little listovative, your source to the best informative list. This is a top 12 things Switzerland is famous for. War history, Red Cross, watches. Watches are interesting because it's what keeps people in this third dimension. I believe it was Zora from the Hollow Earth had mentioned that time is related to those who are developed for the purpose of keeping the people on the surface of the planet in this singular dimension, this third dimension. And when you talk about age, it's not about how many years old one is. It's about, I am 46, I've made 46 trips around the sun. And then it's like there's this detachment. Just say it out loud to yourself. Your age is just a number. So how many trips around the sun did you go? So I thought that was just a beautiful concept. Now, number 4 here on this list is Swiss chocolate. And Swiss chocolates are pretty addictive. They have their own aisle in the grocery stores. Lots of chocolate, all kinds of combinations. And I actually had gone to Basel, and we picked up a little gift, which was to include these sugary treats. Cocoa beans are not grown here in Switzerland. However, the Swiss just have a way of making things the highest quality and so addictive. I'm trying to cut out chocolates. It doesn't help when my partner brings home chocolates, but I do feel that there is a big benefit to cutting out chocolates. Now, why would I bring up chocolates? Now, chocolates is sort of the focus of this part of Switzerland, and why I'm bringing it out. I wanted to go back to Nancy Appleton's website, rheumatic.org, and this is 146 reasons why sugar is ruining your health. Now, when I just do a simple search for copper, because this is a video about copper, sugar causes copper deficiency. When I think about the Merovingian scene about causality, it's about what is the reason behind an event that takes place, or how is an environment manipulated so that people make certain choices. So if the body needs copper, and you make a big selection of chocolates available at the grocery store, at every grocery store, to sell these chocolates, and sugar causes a copper deficiency, people make their own choices. The consumer does have power in terms of if they knew that copper was not was something the body needed, perhaps people would avoid buying sugar, anything sugary like Swiss chocolates. However, also in Switzerland, there is what's called the swissliver.ch. So the domain there is to say it's in Switzerland, the Confederation Helvetica, acquired and inherited liver diseases. So when I do a quick search for copper, I find then Wilson disease, which is copper accumulation. Now, this is essentially a page for patients who are suffering with liver diseases. And Wilson disease is one of those diseases. Let's see, there's a PDF here. And it goes over the Wilson disease for copper accumulation. Okay, it's not correct. Okay, that won't load. So essentially, copper is an essential trace element, the third most important one after iron and zinc in our diet. The average dietary requirement for copper in the adult is approximately 1.5 to 3.0 milligrams daily. So copper is absorbed in the intestine, transported to the liver, and distributed from there to the other organs. A shortage of copper causes symptoms such as anemia, delayed wound healing, and weakness of the connective tissue. Excess copper is removed from the organism through biliary excretion. So there are three things in this little paragraph, it's actually in three parts here, that I want to point out. And the average daily requirement for copper in the adult is approximately 1.5 to 3.0 milligrams daily. Now, in other sources that I have looked at, copper has a low range, and then there's also the upper range. Now, the upper range from this Australian, New Zealand website, it's actually their government website, about the upper level of intake for copper. And what they've put for their upper limit is, let's see, adults. The upper limit is 10 milligrams per day for both men and women who are ages 19 and over. Now, the second thing that I wanted to point out with this Swiss liver Wilson disease regarding copper accumulation is that there is no differentiation between men and women. It's just individuals. So, let's see. Actually, it's just an adult. The copper in an adult is approximately between 1.5 and 3.0 milligrams per day. But there are differences in the New Zealand upper levels of intake. What it appears through the Swiss liver Wilson disease, it's about just showing the low range of what is accepted. They may have taken from different sources what that minimum range is. Okay, so here we have recommendations by life stage and gender. So let's just go to adults. So here we actually see men from ages 19 to 30. They should take on the low range. Low end would be a minimum of 1.7 milligrams per day. Women between 19 years of age, or I should say 19 trips around the sun to 30 trips around the sun, 1.2 milligrams per day. There's also for pregnancy, lactation, but as we can see, the upper level of copper intake is not being addressed in the Swiss liver. Now, the next thing that I'd like to bring up about with this one-page, where did I see it? 12 things that Switzerland is famous for. We've mentioned chocolate, which increases the sugar. Sugar causes copper deficiency. Is that correct? Yes, sugar causes copper deficiency. So then we have cheese, banks, Alps, lakes, music festivals, Zurich, Dadaism, CERN. Okay. I will say, what I was actually looking for was if bread or baked goods was on the top 12 things. When I met my partner in Hawaii, he said, the bread here is awful. And yes, when you compare fresh yeast bread to dehydrated yeast bread that's available in the States, there's like no comparison. However, so with that, a lot of people are pasta eaters, bread eaters, pasta breads. These are big things. So, if you haven't heard of glyphosates is basically a broad-spectrum systematic herbicide. It's a Roundup, basically, that's the trade name. Glyphosate is a broad-spectrum systematic herbicide and crop descendant. And it's basically used to kill weeds annually, broadleaf weeds, and grasses that compete with the crops. So glyphosates are actually used here in Switzerland, and last year there was a no Swiss ban for the weed killer glyphosate, and this was September 30th, 2016. There were more than 3,000 people who took to the streets of Switzerland in May as part of the protest against agri-chemical companies like Monsanto and Syngenta. So this is significant, but with 3,000 people, that was not enough to have people, or have the House of Representatives do anything against stopping the use of glyphosates. Now, glyphosates are curious because glyphosate was first synthesized in 1950 by a Swiss chemist, Henry Martin, and he worked for a Swiss company, CILAG, and CILAG was a research laboratory in Schaffhausen, here in Switzerland, and that CILAG, what became CILAG Corporation, or AG, the Swiss company, was initiated in 1933. So before, I want to say, the interwar years, 1933, same year as the Federal Reserve coming into action, and then by U.S. Congress being enacted. And then in 1950, after World War II, you've got glyphosate being developed by Swiss chemists. So I will have links, and again, this is on Wikipedia, to see who in the world created this thing. I've also got an article here, Glyphosate Discovery, Developments, Applications, and Properties, and it goes a little bit over the history of glyphosate. Actually, it is 34 pages long of a PDF, so that's very interesting. Now, food and remedies, excuse me, talks about the health benefits of drinking copper vessel water. So I went over to the Salvation Army, just the thrift shop, secondhand shop. Here in Switzerland, they call them the Broki. So I went over to the Broki and checked out their copper pots, and saw that they have a lot of old copper pots. And some of the newer copper pots actually have, it could be a stainless steel. One actually had an aluminum in the surface, where the food would be in contact with the aluminum, and then it would have this constant heat underneath because of the copper. So I'm going to pick up a couple of those copper pots. They're really small, and just store my water in them overnight through the day. Have 2 pots, and then one will be a drinking pot that I'll just have after it's been sitting. But this food and remedy is a simple path to holistic health and living. Talks about the benefits. And storage, water storage kills the microbes in the water. And so how does that work? When water is stored in a copper vessel for about 16 hours, copper, in very small quantities, gets dissolved in the water. This process, known in scientific parlance as oligodynamic effect, has the power to destroy a wide variety of molds, fungi, algae, and harmful microbes due to its toxic effects on living cells. So, really simple. Put your water in a copper pot, have it in contact with the copper, and let it sit for 16 hours. So it's a really good thing to have. Just go and visit your nearest thrift shop, pick up a copper pot or 2, get one for those you love, and try it out. So I'm actually really excited about that, and it's. I was thinking copper was a lot more expensive than I'd actually thought, mostly because of the health benefits behind copper. And so I was surprised that I could get this 1 liter copper pot for about 7 francs, under 10, you could say under $10. Not that 7 francs is equal to $10, but it's reasonable, a reasonable price. Oh, and there's this actually really good study, Scientific Direct. Copper oxide incorporated mesoporous alumina for defluoridation of drinking water. And I'll just put a link in there because it's just an abstract, and it was published in April 2010. And it's actually an Indian study on fluoride removal using a copper oxide. So, then there's a little bit of history. The oldest copper metallurgy is found in the Balkans, and that dates back to about 7,000 years ago. So this would be the Bronze Age, and it's where there's actually a lot of problems with Eastern Europe. I have to get in touch with my one friend who is Serbian and ask him about the copper, their copper products. So, I think I've gotten through most of this. Oh, with the exception of this one thing. So, state citizenship via passport, U.S. issued passport, or U.S. Department of the State passport application. I've always referred to this one page here. So, these are actually links in my video regarding, I'll link it up. But this is the page for a state citizen passport, and it's copper moonshine stills, and I really never put this together, but he has a ton of products. Let's just take a look at his first one here, and this is an enormous 220-gallon Missouri still, and that is, let's see, is that $10,900. But that's enormous. As you can see, that's an enormous tarp he's got. But now I'm returning back to his site and seeing what he's got. And then there's the link regarding going back to the beat the law, diplomatic immunity, state citizen passport. He has a whole treaty, and then he's got a little example. And then here he actually has, this is new, is the affidavit of complaining victim of a felony. And then he also has the application itself. So it's the how-to. And again, I will have a link to this so you can see how to complete this paperwork so that you can get your own passport regarding, let's see here, regarding, oops, that looks funny. Okay, as a state citizen, it's really to remove the U.S. citizen, because that's just to be a slave, right? So, I thought I would share that with you, and to to wish you all well. Hope you can find your own copper pot. Copper is a good thing. I had made a copper colloidal, and I had I guess you could say a shot of it, half diluted, and am feeling a lot better. Copper is a good thing. So, if you have any copper stories, I would enjoy hearing them. And if you could also, I'm going to put in a link to this video regarding cliff high and foreclosure prevention, which applies also to renters. My only request is if you could please share that video, because we do have a big housing crisis happening. Considering Canada, US, and Australia are all part of the British Empire, because we're all English speakers, I believe also this process would apply to these other corporations, right? US is just a corporation that was incorporated in 1871. The funny thing, 1971 was the year I was born. So a lot of things, they come together. And we're all here for a reason. It's either to observe or to do something. So if you have information, please bring it out and share it. Okay? So, it's been a cold day, the week after Easter. It actually snowed yesterday, which is considered normal. However, I believe with those elite here in Switzerland, the cold weather is preferred. When I first came for a visit in 2013, that was mid-March to mid-April, that was, my partner said that was very cold. It was like things were changing after 2012. The spring had created a lot of mischief in the air, and I happened to have been here during that time without even recognizing it. But it is, weather is a marker here in Switzerland. They still control the weather from here. Today we had, I had, the building was visited by the building manager because there are 2 new owners that are coming, looking at the property to see about purchasing the property. And I just happened to be, I don't know if they visited the woman downstairs by the mailboxes, but they came up to my apartment unit, and they didn't seem to go to all the units. They did go upstairs, so I believe they're still here in the building checking things out. But apparently the building is going to be sold, and now this is a week after my bill of exchange has gone through. Actually, I will say this comes on the heels about a month and a half now. About a month, 5 to 6 weeks after I sent in a bill of exchange for the Swiss taxes. So, if anything comes up, if I don't make videos anymore, please continue to share the cliff high and foreclosure prevention video, because that's really important and relative for this year and next year. Okay, because everybody needs housing. It's a very simple process. Okay, it'll cost less than a month's rent to take care of that. Okay, so you take care, build your community, and Shayna out.